Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. Smackdown tonight was absolutely boring, in my opinion. Wasn't entertained by the show tonight. It was nothing but rematches, just like Monday Night Raw. It was just a boring show tonight. But before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier today, did a movie review on The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, so definitely go check out my review of that if you haven't seen it. But enjoyed the film. It was a very fun movie, very hilarious, and it was, like I said, an enjoyable film. So check out my review if you guys haven't seen it. Also, before I start the review, got a little bit of news that was released today. I mean, which we all know with WWE releasing more of their superstars. So I have this news right here. So WWE released 13 of their superstars this afternoon. So the 13 superstars that were released were Killian Dane, which I like Killian Dane. He's good in the ring. I liked him when he was a part of Sanity on NXT, which we all know how that went when they were brought up to the main roster. They fucked them up completely. They fucked Sanity up on the main roster. But then they paired him with Drake Maverick on NXT. I'm like, what a weird pairing. Putting Killian Dane with Drake Maverick. They weren't a legit tag team, in my opinion. But Killian Dane, hopefully he finds somewhere else to succeed in now that he was now that he got released from WWE. I could see him working the indies, and maybe Tony Khan will give him a call, and maybe we'll see Killian Dane in AEW. But yet, Nikki Cross, his wife, is still with the company and still going to be with this awful superhero gimmick that they gave her, like what we saw on Monday Night Raw on Monday. The other superstars that were released. The Singh brothers, Sunil Singh, Samir Singh, the Bollywood boys. And we all know how they were with Jinder Mahal when Jinder Mahal was the WWE champion, which he killed SmackDown in 2017 when he was the WWE champion. That was an awful, awful run with Jinder Mahal as a WWE champion. Yeah, and then they went to 205 Live. They were back to being the Bollywood boys, with the whole camera shit. Just never was a fan of the Singh brothers. And then we have Marina Shafir that they also released. She, of course, is the wife to Roderick Strong. But she had a few appearances on TV when she was in the ring. So she got released. Arturo Ruas was released. Kurt Stallion, Fandango, and Tyler Breeze, they were released. But never was a fan of both Fandango and Tyler Breeze. I mean, everybody loved when Fandango first came out, first debuted on the main roster. He had Summer Rae as his manager, and everyone was Fandangoing like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Everybody's Fandangoing like. And then I was like laughing at that. I'm like, how horrible. Never was a fan of Fandango's gimmick with the whole dancing and shit. And then they paired him up with Tyler Breeze. And then they did the whole Fashion Files thing, which was absolutely fucking awful. Never liked the Fashion Files segments that they did. Anybody who liked the Fashion Files segment probably ranged in the ages of 5 to 8 years old. That's how I see it. 5 or 8 years old probably liked the Fashion Files segment. Anybody over those age that liked that segment, I don't know what you enjoyed in those segments. They were absolutely awful, in my opinion. Every time when the segment came on, I either muted the TV or changed the channel. That's how awful the Fashion Files segments were. And then they were brought down to NXT, and right from there, did their thing down there in NXT. Everrise, these guys were in 205 Live, and then I think they got brought up to NXT. I mean, Everrise, Chase Parker, and Matt Martell, they could have been something in NXT if they booked them right. So they got released. Tony Nese was another one that got released. Tony Nese, I think he's very underrated. I think he's very talented. And met the guy at WrestleMania Access during WrestleMania 35 weekend. Very nice guy, he was. But I think he's very talented in the ring. And I think he just should have deserved better, in my opinion. And then we have Arya Daivari, got released. Another guy from 205 Live. Of course, brother to Sean Daivari, which WWE ended up bringing Sean Daivari back, but as a backstage guy, one of the backstage officials. So Arya Daivari got released, and then we have Austin Gray. Austin Gray also got released. He's another guy from 205 Live. Both Arya Daivari and Austin Gray, I think, wrestled their last matches on 205 Live tonight. So, yeah, so several 205 Live superstars were released today. Shows the fate of where 205 Live is going to go. 205 Live, I don't see being on that much longer. Because what? They only have like 4 superstars on 205 Live. Shows you where WWE is taking 205 Live. I don't see 205 Live lasting a whole lot longer. With only 4 superstars on that show. So those are the superstars that were released today. Reading here, Tony Nese has a 90-day non-compete, and Austin Gray has a 30-day non-compete. Killian Dane revealed that he is under a 90-day non-compete as well. I'm reading this from WrestlingInc.com. So it says right here, wrestlers under the 30-day non-competes will become free agents after Friday, July 25th, while the superstars, wrestlers who are under the 90-day non-compete clauses will be free agents after September 23rd. So there's that. That was a little piece of news that was released today of the WWE releases. And I expect more releases to come after possibly the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So the releases are still going to probably continue. So there's that. So now let's jump right into the review. So SmackDown opened up tonight with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was with Roman Reigns. It was in Reigns' locker room. Paul Heyman ended up telling Roman that from their hospital beds, the Mysterios are acknowledging him as a tribal chief, and that they aren't here. Reigns stood up, and Jim Uso ended up walking in. So Reigns ended up asking Jimmy where Jay is. So Jimmy ended up telling Roman that Jay is a no-show. Told Roman that he finally got in touch with Jay, and that Jay ended up telling him that he's not coming back. So Reigns wasn't happy with that, started shaking his head, and Reigns ended up saying that all he did for Jay everything that he did for Jay. He doesn't want to come to work. So Jimmy ended up telling Roman that he's here and that he's got him, family for family. Reigns ended up asking if this is Jimmy saying he will be his right-hand man. So Jimmy ended up saying to Roman, he can do what Jay does. So Reigns was like, all right, if you're going to do what Jay does, prove it to me. So Jimmy ended up walking off. And so that was that. But now Jimmy is taking over for Jay now, trying to do what Jay has been doing, trying to impress, Roman. So that was that. So then we had Bianca Belair end up coming out, the SmackDown Women's Champion. So Bianca got on the mic. She ended up talking about how we're just weeks away from returning to live fans coming back. Bianca ended up saying that she's about to whoop up on Bayley again. She ended up going on about her win at Hell in a Cell, and while she will never forget all the pain Bayley put her through, she can't stop smiling and celebrating because she walked out of Hell in a Cell still the SmackDown Women's Champion, and that she is so proud of herself. She ended up going on talking about bullies, and she then raised the SmackDown Women's Championship in the air. And then we had Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins came out. He came out smiling. And Rollins ended up going on about celebrating with Bianca because he also won at Hell in a Cell. He defeated Cesaro at Hell in a Cell. So Rollins then talk about dominating Cesaro at Hell in a Cell. He goes on to say that he's moving on up. Rollins ended up saying that Bianca didn't dominate Bayley like he did with Cesaro. And he ended up saying some would say Bianca's win was a fluke, but win at all costs. And that tonight we've got a party. So then Bayley ended up coming out. Bianca was talking some trash, and Bianca ended up challenging Bayley to come into the ring to fight. So Bayley ended up coming into the ring. Bayley ended up getting in Bianca's face. Bayley then called Bianca a pathetic loser. And of course, Seth Rollins kept on laughing the Seth Rollins' signature laugh. So Bianca ended up dropping Bayley out of nowhere. Bayley ended up using Seth Rollins' interference to tackle Bianca, started unloading on her. And then out came Cesaro. Cesaro ended up coming into the ring. He ended up ducking Seth Rollins, which Seth Rollins was going to hit the mic at Cesaro. But Cesaro ended up knocking Rollins out of the ring. Bayley ended up tossing Bianca out of the ring. And so Bayley was yelling at Cesaro, saying that he ruined her show last week. So Bianca ended up coming into the ring. Cesaro ended up scooping her, using her to knock Bayley out of the ring. And so that was basically that. Then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had the mixed tag team match. Bianca Belair and Cesaro versus Seth Rollins and Bayley. This was just a meh match, in my opinion. Match started off with Cesaro ended up taking Seth Rollins down. And we had Bayley and Bianca Belair on the apron. Rollins was fighting back, but Cesaro ended up catching a second rope crossbody to Rollins and ended up dropping him with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. And then Bianca and Bayley end up tagging in, which of course Michael Cole ended up saying, Cesaro and Seth Rollins have to get out of the ring because, Bayley and Belair, it's, mixed tag team rules. I'm like, no shit, Michael Cole. We all know how a mixed tag team match works. So Bianca ended up getting the upper hand, and she ended up taunting Bayley. Cesaro and Seth Rollins end up coming back in. Rollins end up dropping Cesaro face first into the corner. Rollins delivered a sling blade to Cesaro, went for the cover, so Cesaro ended up kicking out of 2. Rollins then dropped the knee to Cesaro's face, and they were going back and forth. Rollins ended up taking control of the match and kept Cesaro down. So Rollins delivered a knee to Cesaro's gut. Rollins ended up going for a suplex, but it got blocked by Cesaro. Cesaro ended up powering up, and Rollins ended up landing on his feet. So Cesaro and Rollins were both countering. Bianca ended up coming in, and so did Bayley. Bianca ended up delivering a drop kick and a kip up and another drop kick to Bayley. Bianca had some offense. Bianca then delivered two backbreakers to Bayley. And then Bianca went for a standing moonsault to Bayley. Went for the cover, which Bayley ended up kicking out of 2. Bayley ended up going out to the floor to take a breather, but Bianca ended up following her. Bianca ended up charging, but Bayley ended up dropping Bianca into the barricade. And Bayley then shoved Bianca into the ring post at the steel steps. So Bianca ended up going down. She was selling the injury from the ring post, at the steps. And Bayley ended up coming into the ring. So at the end of the match, we had Bayley and Seth Rollins end up winning the match, where Rollins ended up coming in to prevent Bianca from hitting the KOD on Bayley. So Bayley ended up coming right back and delivered the rose plant because Bianca ended up losing her balance, and Bayley ended up taking Bianca's knee out. So Bayley ended up hitting the rose plant, and then went for the cover. And there you go. Bayley and Seth Rollins ended up winning the match. But overall, just a very meh match, in my opinion. So then we saw Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso ended up stopping Paul Heyman backstage, asking him what Roman meant by prove it. Paul Heyman ended up saying that Jimmy's family has the head of the table that they need, which is Roman. But he needs a right-hand man. And if Jay doesn't want to show up and be that, then it's going to be main event Jimmy Uso. So Paul Heyman ended up telling Jimmy to make some progress by winning a match tonight. So Paul Heyman ended up offering to get Jimmy a match, but indicates that there might be some issues if Jimmy loses the match. So that was that. Paul Heyman ended up walking off. And then we had a coronation for Shinsuke Nakamura. He is now being called King Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm like, what is the point of having a coronation when we did have no King of the Ring tournament? There was no quarterfinals or semifinals or a final match for the King of the Ring. There was no King of the Ring. All we're doing is having this coronation because Nakamura ended up beating Corbin and they were fighting over a stupid crown. So really, we're having a coronation over Nakamura beating Corbin for a stupid crown? So we had Rick Boogs in the ring. And he had a mic, and of course he was playing his guitar. Of course, the ring was all fancy. We saw a throne set up in the middle of the ring. The crown was on a podium, a rotating podium. So he ended up giving Nakamura an introduction. Nakamura ended up coming out dressed in all white. And Boogs was playing his entrance on his guitar. Nakamura ended up taking a seat in the throne. Boogs was continuing to play his guitar. Nakamura was given the crown and put it on his head. So Nakamura ends up dancing around as Boogs ends up screaming out his name. He was telling everyone to hail the new king. So Corbin was watching backstage. He was not liking what he was seeing. Caleb Braxton ended up approaching Corbin. And we had Corbin end up saying that he's lost it all, not just his crown. So Corbin was like, oh, what's the point? So the coronation, we saw Nakamura was still celebrating in the ring, of course, with Rick Boogs. And that was that. But this was not needed. This whole coronation was not needed. It was a waste of time. We had to have a coronation over Nakamura and Corbin fighting over a stupid crown. And Nakamura ended up winning. Waste of time. This was a whole waste of time. So then we had Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville backstage. Seth Rollins ended up walking in. Rollins ended up saying, now is the time. So Adam Pearce ended up asking, how could him and Sonya Deville help Seth Rollins? Rollins ended up saying that it's not what they can do for him. It's the other way around. So he ended up bringing up Roman's state of the WWE Universal Championship address, which took place later on in the night. And Rollins ended up saying that he's Roman's next challenger. So Rollins ended up making the case for being Reigns' next challenger. And says he's never been more prepared in his life. Mentally, spiritually, physically, and more importantly, no one on the roster deserves a chance like he does. So Adam Pearce ended up saying to Rollins that they're not ready to make that decision yet. Sonya Deville ended up saying that they will take it under advisement. So Rollins was like, oh, the time is now. So that was that. So it looks like we're going to be getting Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. And I'm like, why? Why are we getting that? They're both heels. Can't be heel versus heel. Who are we supposed to root for? Unless, they make Seth Rollins a baby face. Maybe they'll turn Seth Rollins into a baby face and Roman will be the heel. But I have to say, we might be getting this at Money in the Bank. We might be getting Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. And there's another thing that I want to talk about later about this whole Seth Rollins Roman Reigns match, possible match happening, which I know we're going to be getting that at Money in the Bank. But I'll get to explain, what I think later. And then we had Apollo Crews versus Big E, Money in the Bank qualifying match. This was a good match. This was probably the best match of the night, in my opinion. We had Big E end up coming out first. And then we saw Apollo Crews end up coming out along with Commander Aziz. And the match ended up getting on the way. Both Apollo Crews and Big E went at it. Apollo Crews ended up taking Big E to the corner. They ended up blocking up. Big E ended up sending Apollo Crews through the ropes out to the floor. Apollo Crews ended up coming back into the ring. Big E ended up leveling him. And he went for the cover, which Crews ended up kicking out too. Crews ended up mounting some offense on Big E. And Crews ended up dropping Big E on the edge of the apron with a Death Valley driver. And Apollo Crews was standing tall at ringside. He was yelling out as SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Apollo Crews ended up remaining in control of the match. He ended up delivering a standing drop kick, but Big E was hanging on. So we had Apollo Crews end up going back to work on Big E. The referee was checking on Big E. And Apollo Crews ended up covering Big E, which Big E ended up kicking out too. So Apollo Crews ended up blocking a belly-to-belly suplex from Big E and then hit a vertical suplex to Big E, which went for the cover, which Big E ended up kicking out too. So Big E ended up overpowering Apollo Crews, ended up launching him with a overhead throw. And then Big E delivered a belly-to-belly suplex. Big E ended up running the ropes and delivered a splash to Apollo Crews in the middle of the ring. So they were trading counters and strikes. Big E ended up catching Apollo Crews with the Uranagi, but it got countered. Apollo Crews then delivered a German suplex to Big E, and then another one. And then third one, so Big E ended up kicking out. So we had Apollo Crews end up getting to the ropes to break up the stretch muffler submission. And Commander Aziz assisted that. So the referee was warning Commander Aziz, not to interfere in the match. So Apollo Crews ended up rocking Big E with an enziguri, and he ended up going down. Apollo Crews went to the top. Big E ended up cutting him off, started working him over. So Apollo Crews later on delivered another German suplex to Big E. Commander Aziz ended up trying to interfere. Big E ended up delivering a Uranagi on the floor. So Big E ended up rolling Apollo Crews back into the ring because the referee was counting 7. Aziz ended up slamming Big E into the barricade. The referee ended up seeing Commander Aziz do that. And the referee ended up ejecting Commander Aziz. He sent Commander Aziz to the back. Apollo Crews ended up rolling Big E up off the distraction. And Big E ended up kicking out at 2. And then Big E came right back, delivered the big ending to Apollo Crews, went for the cover. And there you go. Big E ended up winning the match. He now qualifies for Money in the Bank. So Apollo Crews ends up losing tonight. Your Intercontinental Champion losing. So post-match, we saw Big E end up pointing up at the Money in the Bank briefcase. He ended up saying that it's over and that he's back on track. There you go. So, my opinion, this was a good match and the only best match of the night, in my opinion. It was enjoyable, even though we saw Big E and Apollo Crews go at it 10 times already? So then we saw Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was backstage with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn ended up saying that he's in a much better mood this week after being down, and he's looking forward to the future. Kayla Braxton ended up saying that he will be in a Money in the Bank qualifying match against Kevin Owens next week. So Sami Zayn goes back to ranting about conspiracies and how they're messing with karma and his life. He ended up saying that he got the justice that he wanted at Hell in a Cell, and that this isn't right. So that was that. So we have Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens next week, Money in the Bank qualifying match. But there is a stipulation to that match that I will reveal. And then we had Sami Zayn. He ended up approaching Adam Pearce backstage. Sami Zayn ended up telling Adam Pearce that he's not happy with him having to wrestle Kevin Owens in a Money in the Bank qualifying match next week. So Sami was looking for an easy way out. Adam Pearce ended up denying him for that. And Adam Pearce ended up telling Sami Zayn that him and Kevin Owens' match next week, the Money in the Bank qualifying match, the stipulation will be a last man standing match. So Sami Zayn ended up warning Adam Pearce that he is playing a very dangerous game with karma. So that was that. So there it is. It's going to be Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens next week on SmackDown in a last man standing Money in the Bank qualifying match. So we could watch Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens fight forever. So then we had Sonya Deville in the ring. Sonya Deville ended up coming out to make her first selection for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So she introduces the first selection in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And she introduces Carmella. So Carmella gets a free pass to be in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, all because she is the most beautiful woman in WWE. So Carmella didn't have to have a match to qualify. They're just like, oh, Carmella, here you go. Here's your free pass. You'll get to be in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I hate when WWE fucking does that. Because they're like, oh, here you go. You don't have to qualify. Automatic pass into the match. There you go. You don't have to compete to qualify for the Money in the Bank match. I hate when they fucking do that. I really do. So Carmella ends up getting on the mic. She ends up reminding us that she is a 2-time Money in the Bank winner. Yeah, we all know that. So Carmella ends up saying that she is the most beautiful woman in WWE. She ended up giving Sonya Deville a chance to redo her introduction. And then out came Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan ended up mocking Carmella as she entered the ring. And Liv Morgan ended up reminding everyone that she beat Carmella last week. Liv Morgan ended up saying that she knows she belongs in the Money in the Bank match, way more than Carmella. And I agree, Liv Morgan should get a shot and qualify for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I mean, this woman deserves a whole lot better. You know, now she doesn't have, Ruby Riott anymore since Ruby Riott got released. Give Liv Morgan a chance. Liv Morgan deserves better. So Carmella ended up laughing at Liv Morgan, ended up saying that this match is for the real stars. So Carmella was taunting Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan ended up slapping Carmella. Carmella ended up going to fight back, but Sonya Deville ended up getting in between them. Sonya Deville ended up saying that this is a way for Liv Morgan to make a statement. Because if she thinks she deserves a spot in the match, she can prove it by facing Carmella. So Sonya Deville ended up telling Carmella not to worry because she's not going to be removed from the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So then we had Carmella versus Liv Morgan. Once again, what was so different than what we didn't see last week? Liv Morgan ended up getting the win. Carmella delivered a super kick to Liv Morgan, then a head scissors, and Liv ended up countering that, turning it into a roll-up. There you go, Liv Morgan ended up winning the match. Post-match, Carmella was all frustrated, and Carmella ended up calling over Greg Hamilton, and she had him introduce her as still the most beautiful woman in all of WWE. Who cares? Who fucking cares? So then we saw Kayla Braxton backstage with Jimmy Uso. Jimmy ended up admitting the pressure is on, but he's not avoiding it. He ended up saying that he dedicates this match to the family and Jay. He also said that he hopes Roman is watching this match. So, then we had Jimmy Uso versus Dolph Ziggler. Match was just meh, in my opinion. Jimmy Uso ended up coming out to the ring first. And then we had Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode end up coming out. So the match started. Both Jimmy and Dolph end up going at it. Jimmy ended up leveling Dolph with a shoulder for a 2 count. Jimmy then mounted Dolph with some strikes. Dolph tried to scramble out to the floor to regroup. And they started trading holds. Jimmy delivered a shoulder to level Dolph Ziggler. And then an enziguri went for the cover, which Dolph ended up kicking out at 2. So Dolph ended up landing a kick to Jimmy. And then Dolph ended up grinding Jimmy on the rope, nailed a drop kick, went for the cover, which Jimmy ended up kicking out at 2. There was a point in the match where Jimmy ended up running the ropes. He delivered a suicide dive, which sent Robert Roode over the announce table after Roode ended up pushing Dolph Ziggler out of the way. So Dolph ended up taking advantage of the distraction, ended up dropping Jay into the ring steps with a zigzag, which Jimmy's back ended up hitting the tip of the ring steps. So then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, we had both Jimmy and Dolph back in the ring. Jimmy was unable to get Dolph on the shoulders, and Jimmy ended up blocking the neck breaker, and he ended up nailing the clothesline and a Samoan drop to Dolph. So Dolph ended up dodging a super kick and then dropped Jimmy with a zigzag. So at the end of the match, Jimmy delivered a super kick to Dolph, and he went for the pin. And there you go. Jimmy Uso ended up winning the match. Post-match, Jimmy ended up walking to the stage. Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman were watching from gorilla position. Jimmy ended up joining both Reigns and Paul Heyman, and he ended up asking Roman what he thought of the match. So Roman didn't look so thrilled. So Reigns ended up walking off to the ring. Jimmy ended up walking behind him. Paul Heyman ended up stopping Jimmy, and Paul Heyman was telling him that he did a great job in the ring. So Jey Uso was looking confused, and pretty much that was that. But overall, the match was just meh, in my opinion, between Jimmy and Dolph Ziggler. And then we had Roman Reigns end up coming out along with Paul Heyman for Roman's State of the Universal Championship address. So we had Reigns slowly making his way into the ring. And we had SmackDown go to the commercial. Then when SmackDown came back, we saw Paul Heyman had video to show. And he ended up saying that this footage almost speaks as equally as he does. And it was a video of Roman destroying both the Mysterios over the last few weeks, including Rey in that Hell in a Cell from last week on SmackDown. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that the head of the table does not suck because we had piped in chants of "You suck, Roman sucks." But Paul Heyman was like, here's something that sucks, and a solution to a problem. So Paul Heyman ends up saying how Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, Braun Strowman, Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, Edge, Cesaro, and the Mysterios were all topped by Roman. Paul Heyman went on to say that Daniel Bryan was man enough to come back, and he got shipped right the hell back out. Paul Heyman ended up saying that in less than a year, Roman has taken out the entire division, and that now they have to do something that's never been done before on TV. Paul Heyman ended up saying that they have no other choice because there's no one else left. Roman ran through those guys. So, what is left, for Roman? So Paul Heyman ended up handing the mic to Roman, and Reigns just stood there. He didn't speak any words yet. And then we had Edge. Edge ended up returning tonight on SmackDown. Edge came out. He took off his jacket. He ended up standing on the ramp. We had the pyro end up going off. Edge then rushed to the ring. Reigns was ready to fight. Edge ended up fighting his way in. He ended up sending Roman back out to the other side. Edge ended up delivering a flying clothesline off the apron to Roman. Edge ended up slamming Reigns' head into the announce table several times. Edge started unloading on Reigns. He ended up bringing Reigns back into the ring, but Reigns ended up meeting Edge and delivered a Superman punch. So Reigns ended up going out to ringside. He ended up grabbing a chair. He ends up bringing it into the ring. Edge ended up cutting Reigns off with a spear. Edge then grabbed the chair, placed it under Roman's head. Edge then got out of the ring. He brought another chair in, looked like he was going for the concerto. Jimmy ended up running in. He ended up knocking Edge off the apron with the right hand. Jimmy then mounted Edge on the ground, started unloading with rights to Edge. Edge ended up fighting back, ended up sending Jimmy Uso into the ring steps again for the second time tonight. So Edge ended up charging. He ended up putting Jimmy through the barricade with a spear. Edge then slowly made his way back into the ring. Roman then retreated to the stage with Paul Heyman. Reigns was looking, a bit worried. And Edge was yelling out, and he ended up asking Reigns where he's at. Edge ended up saying that if Reigns wants him, he's right here. So then SmackDown went off the air, and that was that. So Edge ended up returning, and it looks like, I said earlier, we're going to get Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. Now, I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't want to see Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. A heel versus heel. I think it's going to be Edge versus Roman Reigns, which sounds a lot better. But I think we're going to get Edge versus Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. And Seth Rollins is going to cost Edge the title, the Universal Championship. And then we could possibly see Edge versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Because I think Roman is going to be taking on John Cena at SummerSlam if WWE can get John Cena for SummerSlam. So that might be the case. So I could definitely see that happening. Like at Money in the Bank, Rollins costing Edge the Universal Championship, and then we'll get this set up for their feud, and then we'll get the match at SummerSlam, where it'll be Rollins versus Edge. So I can see that's where it's going to go. But overall, SmackDown was a boring show tonight. Wasn't entertained by the show. The only match that was good was Apollo Crews versus Big E in that Money in the Bank qualifying match. So, but anyways, that's it for my review of SmackDown tonight. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my review of The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard if you guys haven't checked it out. And I'll see you all later.